Okay, so some background info. I, 27, female, have an older sister, Leanne, 30, female, and ever since we were kids, we've always had a fierce rivalry, and we have never gotten along. We lost our mom when we were very young, and since then we've been brought up by our father, who always encouraged this rivalry, and he was always very partial to Leanne. So naturally, that made me even more resentful of her, and I always tried to outdo her and everything. So we were always competing against one another. But we calmed down a bit in high school, or at least I did, and after I started college, I just distanced myself from my family because I realized that this was not normal, and they were just very toxic. And since then, at my dad's insistence, I have kept in touch. But I only engage in civilities and nothing else. And they are fine with it because I know for a fact that even my father wants me to keep in touch because he wants to keep up appearances. He's not actually attached to me or anything, and Leanne definitely isn't. She's only able to because she doesn't want to come off as immature or whatever. It's complicated, but it is what it is. Besides, I know for a fact that my mom would have been very hurt if our family fell apart. So that's another reason why I have kept in touch with them. But now, of course, after everything that has happened, there is no chance of that ever happening again. Basically, for the past 4 years, I have been with Jack, and last year we got married after a short engagement. I have always known that Leanne was not happy about my relationship with Jack. Because she and Jack went to college together, and from what I know, she always had a thing for him back then. But that's not actually how I know him. I met him at my co-worker's wedding since he was her cousin, and that was when we exchanged numbers. I found out about the connection with Leanne after a couple of dates when I told him about my sister and how we don't get along. And he started telling me about this girl he used to go to college with, who happened to be in the same friend circle, who had a similar thing going on with her sister, and coincidentally, we had the same name. It was funny back then, and it still is now, especially since we knew that she had a thing for him and we ended up together, and that would inevitably make her mad, even if it was not personal. And we were right. When she found out about our relationship, it did make her very upset, and she tried her best to hide it. But clearly not hard enough. She always used to shoot us very dirty looks whenever we were around. She made offhand comments about us, but we ignored all of it and we didn't really care. It was strange because whenever we were around, she used to be very nice to him, but not so much to me. We didn't think much of it though. We would just come back home and make fun of whatever she said or did and leave it at that. And then a couple of weeks after we got engaged, she brought home a guy she had met on a dating app and had been together with for just 4 weeks, and said that this was the love of her life. This guy, let's call him Marcus, was clearly uncomfortable with how much she seemed to be into him. But I knew exactly what was going on. She just wanted to show everybody that she could find somebody for herself too. And she didn't want to lose out to me, especially in the love life arena. So she decided to get Marcus and try to show everybody that things are a lot more serious than they really were. And I think Marcus must have been very easy to control or something, because otherwise I can't imagine why he would have continued to be with her for so long. And I think he really had no idea what was going on, even though it was pretty obvious. But anyway, they dated for a couple of months, and 4 months ago, Leanne announced that they were engaged. Obviously, everybody was shocked because everyone thought that they were rushing through everything, and even the fact that they were about to get married so soon after the engagement made no sense. since they had known each other for very little time. With me and Jack, we wanted to have a brief engagement because I think we had already known each other for long enough and we were sure about each other. And it was also about the time of year. Besides, our wedding didn't need much planning. We had a pretty small, intimate wedding, so it was fine. But with Leanne, it was different because she hadn't known Marcus for that long. And on top of that, she was planning a pretty big wedding, so 4 months was not enough time to do that. As it is, everybody in the family had their doubts about this relationship, and people tried to convince her to draw out the engagement, at least so she would be able to get to know Marcus better. But she was just not going to have it. And she actually kept bringing up the fact that I had had a very brief engagement too, and it worked out for me. So, people don't need to worry about her. I mean, after that, nobody really had anything to say because everybody knew about our rivalry and everybody was able to figure out that this was not about Marcus at all. This was about her need to beat me, even at the cost of her own happiness. So that was that. But in spite of all of this and how busy she was with planning a wedding in such a short time, she somehow still found time to meddle in my life and my marriage. For context, about a month ago, I decided to quit my job, and since then, I've been working on my business model at home. I have my savings, and Jack and I are still splitting everything equally. I'm still contributing to the finances of the household, and he is quite supportive of my decision. My dad knows about this and he wanted me to rethink it. And I think he's the one who must have told Leanne about it because last month, Leanne decided to reach out to Jack. And in the beginning, she pretended that she was just calling on the pretext of reminding him to RSVP to the wedding, but then she started saying that since I was going to be at home all day now, he should install security cameras inside. So there is constant surveillance because while he might be involved with other people and might be taking advantage of him, because she's heard of this happening very often with other women, he obviously brushed it off, but she kept insisting he needed to be more cautious. So that day itself, he came back home from work and told me everything about this conversation. And I told him that he should go ahead and do exactly what she asked and pretend as if he's on her side. Honestly, we were not really thinking about the repercussions. We just thought that it would be very funny to make her think that Jack was unhappy with me, just to mess with her. Maybe that was not a nice thing to do, but honestly, I feel like she deserved it given what she was doing. Anyway, so the next day, Jack called her back and told her that he had decided to go ahead and take her advice, and he even asked her to come and help him out to install the cameras, and she did so. Once they made sure that it was up and working, which of course had to be done while I was not at home, so I made it a point to make plans with my friends and go out that day. Leanne told Jack that she was happy that he had decided to take her advice. And in fact, she would even tell him to keep an eye on me, including my online activities, because I'm the kind of person who can never be trusted, at least in her experience. I don't know what that meant, but it was just hilarious to hear about that later. Anyway, after that, Leanne started to think there were problems in our marriage, and so she started trying to be friends with Jack and was extra nice to him. She would check up on him, remind him to check the footage from the camera, and make sure I was not up to anything and all this. And then one day, when she knew for a fact that I would not be at home because I had to take our dad to the doctor's appointment, she said she was not free. She decided to do the unthinkable and she turned up at our house. Jack was about to head out for work, but then she showed up and he even told her that he had to leave for work because otherwise he would get late. But she forced her way inside the house. And this is all on camera, by the way. She immediately started flirting with him. She started coming on to him, telling him that she knew that they were meant to be together and he didn't have to resist anymore because clearly he didn't feel anything for me because otherwise he never would have suspected me. She started telling him that she was ready to leave everything and everybody for his sake. And she didn't care what people thought about her. She just wanted to be with him. It was pretty disgusting to watch, especially because Jack kept pushing her away, trying to keep his distance. And he kept telling her that the only reason he had been engaging with her was because it was all a big joke. It was supposed to be a prank, and things were actually fine between him and me. But she didn't buy it. She thought that he was bluffing, and she didn't even believe it when he told her that I was in on the whole thing and just kept trying to get with him. Eventually, she had to give up when he yelled at her. She got a little upset, but then she didn't seem to lose hope. She said that she could understand that things are probably bad between us, but he's still not ready to leave, and she respects that. But she knows that eventually this is not going to work out. And when it goes down the drain, she'll still be waiting for him. After saying that, she finally left, and my husband immediately called me up. But of course, because I was at the doctor's, I couldn't really go back home immediately. And I'm thankful that I didn't, because if I had gone back home right that minute, I would have acted impulsively and I wouldn't have had the opportunity to come up with the plan that I thought of. If I had gone back home immediately, I probably would have confronted her then and there and gotten into a huge fight with her. But I comforted my husband on the phone, and then I stayed put while my dad was getting his regular checkup, which allowed me to formulate something in my own head to get back at Leanne, because I was fuming. And I knew that I was not going to let her get away with this. She had crossed all the boundaries of human decency, and she needed to be taught a lesson she wouldn't forget. So, yeah, while going back home that day, I came up with a plan that was going to totally humiliate her. And maybe that was not a nice thing to do, but again, I thought that it was totally called for, because all along, she had always been the one to instigate me first. She has always been the one to throw the first stone. So why should I back off and let it go when it comes to me to respond? With that in mind, I pretended like everything was normal. Jack and I pretended like everything was fine for the next couple of weeks until 2 days back, when it was her turn to get married. Somehow, probably by convincing my dad to spend a crap load of money on the wedding, she had put together the kind of grand event that she wanted in a very short time. And a lot of people were present there, which was good for me, because this meant that she was going to get publicly humiliated in front of all these people. Things went on as planned, and then it was time for the speeches, which meant that it was time for me to speak up. Before anybody could say anything, I went up to the podium. I grabbed my mic and I started talking about how my sister and I had always had a very complicated relationship right from our childhood, and how we had always been competing for everything. But recently she started competing against me for Jack, of all things. They tried to get me to shut up. They even turned off the mic, but then I just went on yelling, and unfortunately, she didn't have any security at the venue, so nobody could hold me off. Leanne had then started yelling at me, telling me I was making her wedding about my own weird, petty issues, and was accusing me of lying and everything, but she didn't know what was in store for her then. I had already made arrangements for the footage from the security cameras to be played by speaking to the AV team, which just happened to be my cousin. So thankfully, there was no professionalism involved. Just a little bribe and a little convincing went a long way. And during my speech, he played me sitting in the living room, doing practically nothing, sometimes waving at the cameras to let them know that I knew. And then it cut to the footage of that one particular incident between Leanne and Jack. And cue the gas and everything. Everybody reacted exactly how I had expected them to. And even my father seemed shocked for the first time in his life at what his golden daughter was doing. By then, I was done narrating my side of the story, and Leanne was torn between screaming at me, telling me that I was ruining everything, and sobbing periodically, and she was practically incoherent then. So that was how her wedding went. And after I was done with my speech, I walked out with Jack because I didn't care what happened after that. I had done whatever I had to do, and her problem alone. But of course, my dad had to make it his problem as well. And for the past couple of days, he has been calling me relentlessly, telling me that I need to fix whatever I have damaged, which I don't even know what that means because how am I supposed to fix this? The footage was right there. It was played in front of everyone. And now that Marcus has seen it and has broken off his relationship with her and wants to file for an annulment, I don't think it's in my hands anymore to fix anything. What am I supposed to tell him? That all the footage was just edited and it hadn't actually happened? But that's not the truth, so I can't say that. Besides, clearly their relationship had a lot more going on than what I had imagined because a couple of cousins of mine had been telling me that after I walked out, they heard a huge argument while they were all trying to leave. And Marcus was yelling at Leanne, and from what they could gather, Leanne was the one who had basically forced him to propose to her and rushed into an engagement. And she had even asked him to get married to her as soon as possible. And I thought Marcus was easy to manipulate, but I'm guessing that he must have had something to gain from all of this as well. But I'm not too sure about it. Apparently, he had been yelling that this is not part of the plan. But I don't know what plan they were referring to in that argument, and nobody else knows either. So I'm still inclined to believe that he was just caught up in the wrong mess. And Leanne was probably trying to dominate him and succeeded in doing so because he seems to be pretty naive and kind of easy to brainwash. But then, that's my opinion, and that's not really relevant, since we are talking about Leanne here. But anyway, the bottom line is that he doesn't want to be married to her anymore, and she wants to fix everything. So my dad wants me to try and undo the damage that I have done, but I don't feel obligated to do any of that. And in fact, the only reason that I'm here right now having second thoughts about everything is because my dad has accused me of ruining everything on purpose. And the fact that I have led her on made her believe that Jack and I have problems in our marriage. And playing the long game just means that I'm no different from my sister if it really comes down to it. And I'm pretending to be better than her, then I should quit because that's not the case. I don't feel that's a fair thing to say because I'd never done anything first. I never provoked or instigated her. I think whatever I have done is just retaliation, but she has always started things first, especially in this scenario. But I don't know, given the repercussions of everything that has happened, I don't know how to feel about what he has said. I do think it's unfair, but let's see what you guys say. AITA for making a fool of my sister and ruining her relationship and wedding. Update 1. Thank you so much to everybody who commented on my post, regardless of what they have to say. I know people are pretty divided on whether it was right or wrong, but at the end of the day, it is done now. Personally, I choose to go with the people who have said that I didn't do anything wrong, and that Leanne brought it all onto herself. I know that there are people who don't agree with that and who think that I was equally bad, and I think they have pretty valid opinions as well. But then again, the fact that she cast the first stone still stands. So with that in mind, I don't think that I have to feel sorry about anything that I have done, especially when I take it into consideration the fact that after our mom passed away, our father has always been partial towards her. He has always pitted us against each other, and yet I have always been there for him. I've never abandoned my family, but I think now after everything that's happened, they don't deserve my support or company anymore. I've always tried my best to make it seem like we are one normal family, even though the two of them have always been one unit and have always been united in their whole agenda against me. So much that in spite of our best attempts, my dad hasn't been able to hide the fact that he has a soft corner for Leanne and doesn't like me that much compared to her. It shouldn't be that way, especially when it's a single parent that we're talking about. But the rest of the family definitely did pick up on it, and that's fine right now. Nobody is on their side right now. Everybody thinks that what I did was perfectly justified, especially because it's not like I made the first move. I did not do anything until she started at all, so simply because of that, everything I did is justified. And yes, she's probably going to end up getting an annulment after all because of what happened at the wedding, but I don't feel particularly bad for her. Because at the end of the day, let's be real, it's not like she had any real feelings for Marcus. In fact, if I'm going by what people have been saying, Marcus was not perfectly blameless either. Like I had said in my original post, everybody had been saying that there was something fishy about the situation with Marcus, and even I thought so, because it seemed very unlikely that somebody would be so naive. A grown man would be stupid enough to give in everything that Leanne had been telling him to do, especially when it concerns serious things regarding engagements and marriage. Rushing into that is no joke. And yet he did that in spite of how uncomfortable he seemed to be with it. And even at the wedding, if you guys remember, during the argument, he had been talking about some plan. So now it's not fully confirmed yet because my cousins have been discussing this, but apparently my father has been talking about it with his sister, and she is kind of a gossip. So that was a bad move since that's how the rest of the family got to find out that apparently the only reason Marcus was willing to get married to Leanne so quickly was because he wanted to be an American citizen. He had already discussed it with Leanne, but he had thought of it as more of a long-term plan, and he didn't actually intend on getting married so quickly because he really wanted to get to know Leanne, but he also wanted to be honest with her and let her know that the citizenship angle was a part of it. Leanne decided to play that to her advantage and started to pretend as if that was very important to her. And that's how she got him to agree to rush into everything. And on one hand, it was convenient for him because it would speed up the process for him as well. But on the other hand, it was suspicious about what was actually going on because this was not normal behavior. We knew that Marcus's parents were immigrants, that he had moved when he was 12 years old with them, but then they had moved back to their home a couple of years ago and they wanted him to come back as well. But he was not ready to go. Whatever, these are all speculations and rumors, but that really does make sense now that I think about it. Of course, nobody apart from Marcus can actually say whether any of this is true or not. But judging by Leanne's behavior, I'm truly hoping that it is what actually happened, because if he had really started getting attached to Leanne, then whatever happened at the wedding must have broken his heart. So honestly, I don't feel bad for her. But I feel sorry for Marcus that he got caught up in such a nasty thing for no reason. Update 2. Okay, so from what I know, they are going to get their marriage annulled, and honestly, I don't know why Leanne and my father are still surprised that in spite of all their best efforts, Marcus has decided to go through with it, because after what happened at the wedding, I don't think any self-respecting human being would have continued to stay with her. Apparently, they have been talking all sorts of nonsense about me to everybody else in the family, trying to convince everybody to cut me off, saying that I'm the black sheep of the family who's ruined everything for my sister, saying that I am jealous and insecure and that I'm pathetic and that I've always been like this, never the kind of person who would be able to see Leanne be truly happy and tolerate it. And I'm just like, what? I mean, are they even in their senses? I highly doubt that, because if they were, they wouldn't be spewing all this BS about me to everybody else in the family, because I think everybody saw what had unfolded in the video that I played. And I think nobody in their right mind would say that I am the one at fault here. I mean, she's always been like this. But what happened was way too far, and it involved Jax. So, of course, I was not going to take that. I mean, what was she even expecting? If anything, I would say that whatever they have been saying about me is a huge projection, because in reality, she's exactly the way she is painting me out to be. I don't know what her problem is or even what my dad's problem is. But I'm done with this crap. I have told everybody who's been speaking to me that from now onwards, they can either be on my side or be in touch with them. And I don't have an issue with anybody who chooses to associate with them, but I just don't want them to have anything to do with me because I think it's high time people decide who they want to be with. I don't want them to have any sort of access to me. I don't want Leanne and my father to have anything to do with me ever. And I know a lot of people will choose to be neutral, and I respect that choice. But I will also respect myself enough not to have anything to do with these people anymore. So I have made that very clear to everybody else, and some people are very obviously on my side. Other people are neutral, and I'm just going to stay away from these people now. If that means that I don't get to speak to the rest of my family, I'm fine with that as well, because I'm just done with all this drama. Update 3. So, hi guys, been a couple of months since my previous update, and I haven't checked Reddit in a pretty long time because I was pretty busy with my life. A few weeks after my update, I actually found out I was pregnant, and it was one of the happiest days of my life. And since then, I've been busy with work and doctor's appointments and everything, and I'm happy to tell you guys that these things have been going pretty well for both me and Jack. We're very excited to welcome the baby, and that's all that we're thinking about right now. As far as I know, Leanne and Marcus are not together anymore. I think they got the annulment, but I don't really care about that. The only reason I'm even posting about this right now is because a couple of days back, my dad texted me to tell me that he was really disappointed I hadn't bothered to reach out to him and informed him that I was pregnant and he was about to be a grandpa. He said that he had taken offense at that, and that now, even if I wanted to invite him and make amends, he wouldn't be open to it, even though he had been open to it until then. He said it was insulting and disrespectful that he had to find out about my pregnancy through rumors and gossip from other family members, and said that this is not what my mom would have wanted. But I have let her down, and that he doesn't want anything to do with me anymore. I mean, I pretty much didn't have anything to do with him for the past couple of months, but fine. Whatever floats his boat. I think he just wanted to have the last word, and he had that, but now I don't really care. Like I said, all I care about is my baby now. Now, Jack and the baby are going to be in my own family, and of course, the people who have chosen me over Leanne and my father, I'm going to keep in touch with them. And apart from that, I'm not going to let anybody get under my skin anymore. I'm done. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.